Hey guys, this is Glorious Fruit back at another episode review of Velma. So on episode 9, uh, Velma's at the hospital with her mom because in the previous episode she finds her mom, and then as well as becoming a girlfriend towards Daphne when the friendship was going bad, but and so they decide the best thing to do is to become a couple to fix that, which it goes terrible for episodes 9 and 10. And so back at it with the hospital scene. Velma's mom has amnesia. She has 72 hours, and if once those 72 hours are up, she loses all her memories. And in order for her to gain her memories back, is to like keep her happy. And that was Norville's dad's diagnosis, and this all happened because Velma's family didn't have good insurance to afford a better doctor, and so that's what they got going for them in that scene. And so Velma decided that she's going to do a lot of lying to make it happen, which is she does in episode 9. And so starting off with fixing up their home, making sure to kick out the stepmom and the stepsister, and since they weren't part of the home when she disappeared, turn everything the same way it looked like the day she disappeared. And that all that was going on. And so meanwhile, Daphne wanted to take Velma to this party because the brains are still alive. The teenage girls that were supposedly killed, they're in jars still, and that they're in a party. And I mean, it's not important, but it's there. And then they continue with the relationship with Velma and the mother, trying to regain her memories. And so our first memory clicks that Velma was wearing the glasses that Velma's mom disappeared with, and so her first memory triggered that a cell on glasses, and next to it was the Jones Fred's family. They bought the mansion that Purdue lived in and did her experiments and the Scooby experiments. And so that happened. And then finally, the gift. I don't remember if I mentioned it in the review, but for those of you who watched the show, if Velma finally opens the gift that was given to her from her mother, and it was all because of she found her Christmas present, so she got another one, and it turned out to be red shoes, which I don't know if that's an Easter egg for the Scooby stuff. All she says is red Mary Janes. I'm probably gonna need to Google that. Probably somewhere in the stream I find something if it's an Easter egg or not. But there's that, and then you get her Velma's usual self bothering Norville to do things that she wants and screw over whatever the things he wants to do, or just like if he's busy and he needs to drop all that because Velma needs him. And so now her new obsession is to keep her mom happy so she can get her memories back, for one part just so she can know who the serial killer is. And so that's her new obsession after finding her mom. And then eventually Norville does come and give her a fake report card because she asked him to make a fake report card to keep up with the lie, because she kept up with the lie that she's still a valedictorian and she still has good grades. And Velma's stepmom came back inside the house to get the blanket that's useful for her baby. And then Velma's mom is like slowly catching on whether like he had an affair with her, and Velma had lied that the baby was hers and the father was Norville, which was a pretty steep lie. And then the stepmom is actually the caretaker. And then somehow in that process, Velma's mom faints, but in that process, she remembers that what happened to her. So she went to the Jones estates before they moved in. She was able to find the underground basement where the Purdue, it was like Dr. Edna Purdue experiment in the basement. She couldn't find a way in because it was blocked off with bricks. But later on, Velma and Fred find a way in, and so Velma's mom, she goes through a well where there's a secret entrance to go down there. but then that's all she remembers. And then moving forward, Daphne has an idea to bring her popularity and Fred's popularity back up, because when they went to school, their popularity was gone, and then the brains were the new popular, the it people. And so Daphne had the idea to start a fake relationship with Fred to fix that. And so, yeah. And then Fred's mom, Mrs. Jones, thought that was a good idea, and then to go on with that. And then I like eventually later on in the episode, she thought to like make her an intern for the business, the family business, for the scarf things and perfume and whatnot. And so they carried on their relationship thing. They were able to gain popularity back again from the high school people because they were the it couple, whatever, whatnot. And then Velma's mom gains a bit of memory back again. Like I'm trying to figure out who is the killer. Velma once again tries to lie again. She makes up a article, that school paper, that she's the heroic teen mom that makes cousin all look like bag of garbage. That's the whole thing, headline thing. And so Norville eventually, agrees to it. And then for some reason I completely forgot about it, but like I forgot for why. But like Velma goes into the counseling office where Norville's dad works in the school, and she finds a welding mask and accuses Norville's dad of being the killer. And so there's this whole raid inside their home, and then Norville's dad eventually says that he made a gift for Norville for his birthday and made a sword, and he did a terrible job of it. And so there's that. And so, and then it pans out to the next scene where Fred and Daphne are still doing their fake relationship thing, and then it pans out to the next scene where Norville has had it. He stands up for himself. Has had it with Velma, and she crossed the line with with his family, and he called it that. Called things it was over. And Velma, above all things, she blames the police when it was like her fault for accusing Norville's dad, and Nova calls it off at the end of the friendship. And then Velma loses the baby that she was taking care of. That she lied that it was hers, and rolls away to the streets. And then the baby rolls into the party the brains had, and then she finds Fred and Daphne kissing, and then the stepmom is there. Velma's parents walk in, and then Velma's mom already speculated that the husband was already having an affair with her, and then the husband cleared out that she didn't immediately cheat on her. Waited after 6 weeks and they fell in love, whatnot. And then somehow the relief of losing her husband, and finding out that her family home is kind of shitty. She finds out that she is the killer, but there's a twist to it, and that's in episode 10, which will start. So in the beginning of episode 10, Velma mom is being interrogated, and then the whole reason that why she did the killing was that she wanted to put one of the popular girls' brains into Velma's head, and that was the whole story about it. But it's not as what it seems, and so Velma wants to prove her mom's innocence, and so she tries to look for help. She can't find Norville for help, and so she goes to the next best thing. Fred is angry because his mom, Mrs. Jones, doesn't think he's competent enough to take over the business. And you just see him throwing a fit, and then you see him painting flowers on the van that he bought from the auction that happens in the beginning of the episode. So it's like the slowly becoming of the mystery van. Daphne is looking for Velma, and Norville is still angry. He manages to say a bad word. He says Velma's bullshit. So he's still on about that. And then not Velma, Daphne opens her locker. She finds a geode. In the geode, there's a pocket watch and a letter of the mom explaining like where she found a pocket watch, and she would manage to escape from the killer and took Daphne's $10. But which it's not relevant. The relevant part was that like she found a pocket watch that apparently belongs to the killer. And then Velma finds a way to go talk to her mom because previously she couldn't talk to her mom in the episode. And so the only way Velma could go inside the jail and the, the police department was to have Fred's help basically say, hey, I'm rich. She's bothering me. Lock her up. And then, because this show is pretty shitty, that happens. And then so Velma talks to her mom. And then Velma wanted to confirm that is that what she wanted to do is to take a popular girl's brain and put it in Velma. And then Velma's mom keeps repeating it, and then she told her that's it because that's all she could say. And then Velma like starts thinking, okay, she's being hypnotized, and so she's stumped. And then you get this whole scene that she's listening to Norville's voicemails, and she feels shitty about it. It's whatnot, but it's whatever. Okay. There's another scene part where Daphne is inside a limousine with Fred driving away, and it turns out that they got kidnapped. And then there's the whole scene that Velma. I'll put a clip of it. It's just like a Easter egg of Velma losing her glasses. My glasses! I hope this doesn't keep happening. And so Velma saves Daphne and Fred, and then they're at the scene where the killer's tied up in a chair. And so Velma apparently now figure out who is the killer. The killer is Mrs. Jones, Fred's mom. And then her whole story is basically is to like make sure that the family business is staying up. And so it starts off with explaining her own story where her father was a general and then he had this idea with the professor that owned the mansion previously was Dr. Edna Purdue, where they performed the experiment. The experiment it was successful, where they swapped brains to have the ultimate soldier, and then they proved it in front of the government people. But since the general was taking credit for it, Edna Purdue decided to switch back the brains and then take the evidence of the experiment going well, and she like hid it. And the general responded by taking her to an insane asylum and taking her as insane. But since the general didn't have any proof or any way to proceed with the experiment Project Scooby, he loses everything. And then the next thing that Mrs. Jones goes is marry off with money, which is the company Fred's dad does, and she becomes this global corporation. And so the next scene is basically finding out that Fred's dad was also hypnotized because he eventually found out what she was up to. And basically she ends up thinking, okay, Daphne was not the brain she should have gone with. It should have been Velma's brain, since Velma's brain has that male. And this is all for Fred getting rid of his brain and putting in Velma's in his brain. Male thoughts or whatever. That's what the show went off with. And then so Mrs. Jones wanted to take Velma's brain and put it in Fred's. And so the next thing that Velma does is try to get Fred angry and saying that he was like, she's right, she's down to switch brains because Fred is incompetent. And Fred breaks free. Mrs. Jones escapes, and Fred goes after his mom. And then she makes up an excuse that she was being possessed by the Dr. Edna Purdue, and then she has like hold of the gun, has her own son as hostage, and has Velma Daphne as hostage. And I'll have a clip of the scene where Velma and Daphne confess their love because it could have been in the last moment. Daphne says I love you and kisses her, but then Velma kisses her back and says I love you, Norville, and then makes this whole thing.
Stan, I need you to know that I love you.
awkward. And so that all that happened, and then Norville pops down saying, "I love you, Velma," and then Mrs. Jones shoots a Norville. Norville deflects the bullet. It hits one of those spikes in the caverns, and then she was gonna go shoot Daphne and Velma once more, and the whole piece of the cave falls on top of Mrs. Jones. Fred's is still in denial that she's being possessed by the mad scientist, and Velma makes up this stupid dance. Even though this gross testing just happened, she's all happy dancing that she solved the mystery, and then you just see Norville puking, and then Daphne and Fred in disgust of Velma's dance.
It's true. I've solved the case for good. But like all prestige detectives,
and so it moves on that that they're celebrating for Velma's victory, solving who was the murderer. Velma gets the city of the key, as well as her friends, Fred, Norville, and Daphne. But they're all arguing from each other. Fred blames Norville for killing her mom. Daphne's angry at Velma because she said, "I love you, Norville." And then there's the whole scenes where basically clips of the continuation of season 2, since that's a go. There's no way of of any cancellation unless it does happen, but who knows. And so Daphne gets a little pentagram letter and whatnot, and so and she I guess it's something to wait for season 2. I mean, I don't know if anyone's gonna be tuning in for season 2. I don't know myself either, but yeah. And then Fred has his van. He calls it the Fred Jones Spooky Stuff Hunters. I guess he's starting off his supernatural Sam and Dean style kind of thing. And then yeah, that's about it. Oh, and there's this clip I have here where it's not the full clip, but basically it's Velma giving all the evidence of the killer, Mrs. Jones, to the sheriff. The sheriff locks it up, as solved, and there's no such thing as ghosts. And then this whole scene where he gets murdered. I mean, you don't see him getting murdered, but you just see a splat of blood on the window. And then that's it, I guess, just up to season 2. And hopefully it does get better. If they actually watched out what people had to say about this show. But who knows? They might just stick to the same thing. I guess there's only one way to find out. I don't know if I'm going to find out, but we'll see, I guess. All right. If you guys like the video, give it a like. And if you haven't subscribe to the channel. I'll be streaming maybe Friday. I know tomorrow is The Last of Us, since it can't be shown on Sunday because of Super Bowl. So we get to watch it sooner. But yeah, there's that. And watch out for my streams. I'll be streaming during the weekend as well. All right. See you guys.